Now every day, every night, every moment with you, I'm walking on air. And every day, every way, I feel I can't lose. I wanna shout it out, ain't no limit. I wanna shout it out to the world. You got me all worked up, got me spinning. I'm crazy for love, crazy for love, crazy for love.
Hey guys, today we're going to talk about something we get a few questions about, but we're going to talk about our composting toilet system that we use up at our property. First, we're going to dive into a little bit of why we use a compost toilet system. One of the first reasons was that we were up here before, we were always kind of camping, and we don't have septic. We do have a septic system dug,
Now.
and it is just not usable yet.
But so what's the alternatives?
So the alternatives were that we could go to the bathroom outside and dig cat holes, kind of like you do when you're backpacking. Well, exactly like you do when you're backpacking.
It's a big pain in the butt.
It's a really big pain, and then once our kids were old enough, it was an even bigger pain because you have to dig their cat holes too. So, and the ground here is very hard. So, and for a good cat hole, you're supposed to dig it like at least a foot deep. So that was a little bit impossible. And then we got a trailer up here. In the trailer, we could use the toilet.
But there's not a place to dump.
It. We could just wheel it somewhere and dump it on our property, but I mean, that's just waste.
Unsanitary and not good for the environment.
Yeah. So, and we could haul our trailer on and off our property, but it was really hard to get our trailer up here because we have a really steep hill to bring it up.
Yeah, so that wasn't really an option.
And getting it even parked on our property was hard. So we were like, nope. So we did some research.
We came up with found the composting toilet system and did some research, and I mean, this is what we came up with, was the bucket system.
First, we talked about doing an outhouse, like building a standard outhouse, or even just, you can build just a platform out in the woods somewhere that has enough privacy that you've dug a giant hole for.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like almost the same system as what we do, and now we're kind of more in control of where it goes.
I mean, it still might have been, depending on how long we knew it was going to be until we built, it still might not have been a bad idea. Building an outhouse, still utilizing the same technique, could still be a great idea. You just probably use like a big Rubbermaid instead of a bucket system.
Which is what we were going to look at when we started looking at what other people do in yurts and tiny homes and just people living off grid. Okay, so when we kind of discovered it first, we read about people actually using this system in their house. So it's because it doesn't stink.
No.
It's actually pretty sanitary, and which a lot of people don't think it is when you first start telling them.
It's really, like, if you think about using a porta potty, and if you have any of that kind of connotation in your head, it's nothing like that. It's very sanitary, doesn't smell.
Does not smell at all. Like, it's kind of crazy.
When we were doing our research, a lot of RVers and tiny home people utilize, and off-grid people utilize this technique. So we kind of adapted it to use it for our situation.
So for our situation, we decided, because if you did it inside your house, you'd have something built up where you could swap the bucket in and out pretty simple, and have your compostable material. Is that what the peat moss is, or is it, what would you call that?
It's your medium for, like, you can use bark chips. We've found peat moss uses the best. It works the best, but we've researched and heard of people using different types of bark chips as well.
One article we read that people said they actually loved wood chips the best, like cedar chips. That's just something we don't have readily available to us, whereas this we can run to the hardware store and get our bag of peat moss. So if you were going to use it inside, you'd be swapping your buckets. We use ours outside. We leave it all sitting underneath our trailer, and when somebody says, I gotta go use the bucket, and we know what that means.
Code word.
So basically what do you need for your composting toilet system? You need a toilet seat. You don't really need a toilet seat,
Yeah,
but
you
we
do.
think it's comfy.
No, you totally
you
need
could
one.
hover.
No,
So-
hovering's bad.
Little toilet seat. Obviously you need, people ask, do you get to use toilet paper? You absolutely do, because it will compost. It's just paper. We have found that it's best to buy really cheap toilet paper that's thin, or
even best is like the RV specific, which is a little bit more expensive, but it's made to rapidly dissolve and break down. So that actually works the best,
Yeah.
if you can find it.
Because that's probably the thing that takes the longest to break down is the toilet paper. Like that's what
Yep.
people will see in our composting toilet system sometimes. So you have 2 buckets is what we use just because when we're up here for a while, we fill up a bucket pretty fast as a family of 4. So you take your bucket off to your private area, you do your business, and then
Well, first of all, like the little ninja trick is you put a little bit of medium, your peat moss or your bark chips at the bottom of the bucket, give you a little insulation from
Cool.
your,
and otherwise it gets stuck.
yeah.
Okay. We don't want to get too graphic, but these are things we've learned along the way. And then you're off in the woods, you do your thing. I like to put mine where I can enjoy a view, and I know
One of
no
the
one's going to come bother me.
Benefits of doing your business outside.
And then you just go to the bathroom like normal, and then I come back and cover it up with the peat moss, and that's that. Like, and then the next person comes, and all they see is peat moss. Nobody opens it up and sees,
A turd.
well, unless your mom, because mom gets the job at our house of covering our kids' business.
Yeah, they should probably learn that.
They're
pretty soon.
almost old enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, our kids are. We have 3rd grade
So,
twins.
so let's dive in there a little bit more. So you go do your business. You bring it back to your medium. We have our peat moss here sitting under our trailer, and you basically take a couple handfuls. So maybe like 2 cups, 3 cups worth, just enough to cover your waste and the toilet paper. And then so what happens is the peat moss is absorbing all of the moisture out of your waste, and that's what makes it like so it doesn't smell. So it really works really well. And so the reason we have 2 buckets is you want to give the peat moss time to kind of start that composting procedure. So we usually fill one all the way up, and then it goes into kind of its first stage of composting while we're using the other one. So it gets a good like week, or depending on how long we're up here, it gets some time to compost. Once we have to empty that bucket, then we empty it into this larger trash can. So that's kind of our stage 2
Yeah.
composting.
Especially when we're up here, like in the summer, we come up for 2 or 3 weeks, so it needs to sit for a while before it goes into your big composting pile. So this gives it like the second stage, so we can keep using these. And I kind of interrupted you, but
Yeah.
then it goes from that to
And then we just have some chicken wire that we've created kind of a traditional composting bin, and that's its final stage where it will kind of completely break down. Sometimes we'll go in there, add some grass, some leaves, some just other organic material, kind of churn it every once in a while with a rake or something, just so it introduces some oxygen in there. But I'd say in a 6-month period, it completely breaks down into usable compost. So we'll dump it out in the woods. At that point, it's just fertilizer, and it's great for the forest. I don't think we'll probably use it in like gardening or anything.
no. Well,
We've heard of people use it and coin the term humanure, but I'm not sure we're quite that edgy.
Well, and in all honesty, we don't know what's going to happen up at our property, if we're going to be up here full time, if we'll even have a garden, or, I mean, at this point, it's been sitting there so long, I don't think I'd be really freaked out to use it.
No.
But
Why?
I don't think I'd tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like, hey, these tomatoes were grown. But some homesteaders are very, like, proud of that. So, which, I mean, this system, we've done a lot of research. We've passed it on to some friends that are looking at tiny home systems, and the looks I get when I tell people, like, oh yeah, you can come up to our property, it's great, hey, we poop in a bucket. That's what I always say. And Ryan's like, stop saying that to people. But I am kind of like, I want people to be aware, and we do get a few crazy looks, and we get a few questions.
And it's one of our litmus tests, so how we determine who's our people.
Yeah, are you our people? Will you use our bucket system? And I think that litmus test has been really good. So we have a few random, like, frequently asked questions we get.
Yeah.
Can you pee in the bucket? Or do you pee in the bucket?
Yes. Yeah, you can. I think if you're just peeing, it's best to not do it, because you don't want the medium to be completely absorbed. But peat moss will absorb a ton of liquid and moisture. So like it's not worth, we've heard some people say like, oh, don't pee in there at all. I think the pee actually helps the composting process to kind of speed it along. So we don't worry about it. We just kind of do our thing and put do both number 1 and number 2 in there.
But if I'm just going number 1, I don't grab the whole bucket system.
Yeah.
We go off and do that wherever. The second question, we already touched on toilet paper. Does toilet paper go in? Yes.
Yeah. Does it smell?
Then, does it smell? Absolutely not. It's totally crazy that it doesn't smell, but it does not smell.
Somehow the peat moss just like locks all that smell, that stink in, and
even when it goes to the outside composting pile, it does not smell. Like we have people over and they don't even know that it's a composting point, like with our waste in there, like because it's just not stinky. And it doesn't attract animals. That was one worry I had, that we were going to get the animals coming, and that's really bad to have them coming and eating your waste because it's not good for wildlife. But nothing, like even the dogs pretty much leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think if there's any other random questions we get about it.
And I think, I mean, this is nothing special for the toilet seat, and the lid comes off and it just kind of rests on there.
Like that is the bucket system. And like, I don't know, we get a lot of people who are very freaked out about it, a lot of people who are very intrigued. I think if you're a backpacker, it's not weird at all. When we backpack, I kind of wish we had this system because it's easier.
Well, it reminds me of when we did the Wonderland Trail and we had these very similar, like, composting toilets
that the National Park System had put in place for you. So, and like, there's even backpackers that will carry a PVC pipe system.
Oh,
I've read about
that.
that. Huh. So that is like your own little, you pack out your waste. So I don't know if they use peat moss, but they should. Do our kids use it?
Uh-huh.
So do our kids use the bucket system? Yes.
They do.
Because we just can't fill up our trailer with the solid waste. So it's
Well
like,
put.
what am I looking for? So they do use the bucket system. They started using the bucket system when they were like 5.
Yeah.
So they are not weirded out by it. I think if we had 10-year-olds, or even if the age they are now, and we were like, hey guys, this is what we're going to do, this is our system, that might be a little weird for a kid, but I don't know. We've had kids come visit and they use it, and it's...
Yeah. Well, and I think the other benefit that since we don't use the bathroom inside the trailer, I mean, anybody that's been in an RV or a trailer, I mean, really tight spaces, you don't have that, like, oh, I just used the restroom in the trailer and now everybody else can smell my business. So that's like an added benefit is, you know, you do your business outside and not everybody else has to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
So
Well put there.
Yeah.
No, let's turn on some music while I go use the restroom situation.
So these are just Home Depot buckets. They're like $2 a piece.
My favorite thing about them is that it does say, let's do this.
And we just got this from Home Depot. It's the 3 cubic feet. It's pretty much, I don't know, it's the largest you can get.
I always get the largest when I
the
go.
biggest one you can get from Home Depot. And hey, this, like, we went through, what, 1 or 2 of those
I think
during
just
the summer?
one over
Just
the
one?
summer, yeah.
So this will last like a couple of months using the system. We had a lot of questions on this, so we thought, well, shoot, we should just make a video on it and let you guys see the process.
And we'll always be giving you different updates on what we're doing up at our property as we're waiting for the log cabin kit to arrive, and also be thinking about things that have really helped us in this journey of like having a trailer, living here with minimal services, building at a time. And as tips and tricks come to mind that have really helped us, like this, we'll bring them to you. So if you think you want more tips like this, be sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get alerted for our next videos.
All right, I think that's it.
That's it.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.